the depths of hell. This is Mike D, joining you now, forever and always, with Ms. Stephanie Crawford. Hey, Steph.
Hey, Mike.
Did you raised your voice to meet my? Yeah, no, that's nice. That's
yeah. I popped the blood vessel on my forehead, but it was worth it.
Mr. Bradley for the Fuckleseckle Henderson.
Hey, Mike.
Hey, buddy. And Dr. Sean DeRegger.
Did you put in cricket sounds? Someone put cricket sounds.
No, Sean's like, why is Sean not here? Like week after week after week. What is he doing?
He's busy, man.
Busy, in demand, audiobooks. He's the new king.
Yeah. So what are we talking about, Mike?
Yeah.
This week?
Yeah, this week. Right now.
Bradley, if you have clicked on this link, then you know, son, that we are doing an audio commentary of 1981's The Evil Dead by Dr. Sam Raimi. Round of applause.
Clap, 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 clap.
I don't know. What else do you want to say?
Nothing. I'm going to count down right now and hover over the play button. And, okay, so I'm watching the Anchor Bay Blu-ray. Steph's watching. Are you watching the Necronomicon DVD?
No, I own the Blu-ray. I own the DVD, but because I need to record this in a room that won't sound like an echo chamber, I am watching it on an Amazon Kindle from Netflix.
Oh, okay. All right.
What the fuck?
So
there's no TV in this room.
And I'm on Vudu. I bought the bundle, $14.99 for 1 and 2 in HD.
All right. So hovering over the play button, and we're gonna do 3, 2, 1, play. So 3, 2, 1, play. There we go. Darkness. There we go.
Oh no, an ad for the Tiger King. No, I'm just kidding.
That would have been terrible, terrible. So The Evil Dead, huh? You guys picked this, so I'm excited to know.
We sure didn't. What a title, though.
I don't think we did. Did we pick The Evil Dead?
So I will say I do know a lot of filmmaking aspects. So Sam Raimi is being pushed in a boat by Bruce Campbell for this scene. A little dinghy. I do know that.
So Bruce Campbell is essentially the motor.
Yeah, he's the motor. Sam Raimi is controlling the camera, which, Bruce Campbell obviously was a producer on this picture, and he did a lot as far as production-wise. He helped get it blown up to 35 and helped behind the scenes on the set. He's actually running with the 2x4 in some of those scenes. They were able to mount the camera to 2x4 and run through the woods, which that's the big thing that inspired me.
And there's the famous Sam Raimi car that's in all of his films.
What is that? The Delta 88 or something like that?
No, 73 Oldsmobile, right?
Yeah, it's 73 Oldsmobile, but it's like a Delta 88, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that, though.
Okay.
We're not car guys. There's the Lazy Mary. Not as famous, but very memorable. So, yeah, speaking of the title, so this was originally The Book of the Dead.
Right.
And then they tried out House of the Dead because apparently horror films that use house and dead do well in the box office.
It wasn't that someone needs to mute it because I can hear it.
Yeah, it's me, dog. That's me, buddy. I turned it down.
So it was the guy that produced the second one that basically helped get this made was Irvin Shapiro. I think he's the one that suggested the change of the title.
Right. Well, because he was from back in the day, working on distributing films in the 1930s. So he definitely brought a lot of experience. I think Sam Raimi was about 22 when they started making this. So someone like that was incredibly valuable to have around.
I do know that they tried out other titles. I remember one. I forget if it was at a convention that I heard Raimi say this, like during like one of the, the Q&A sessions or whatever. But they tried the title Blood Flood for a bit, and I when I heard Blood Flood, I was like, that's perfect. I want to fucking make a movie called Blood Flood.
Yeah, that's fun just to say.
Yeah,
Mike,
it was.
Say it. Try it out.
Blood Flood. Say it.
Flood.
And then, and then it was also it was like 100% Evil Dead or something like that. And then Bitches or Witches was another title that they were fooling around with, but obviously nothing really stuck.
Fooling around.
Evil Dead. But I like both. Book of the Dead, Evil Dead. It all works.
This shot's beautiful.
Mm. Yeah, apparently it was so low budget in the middle of nowhere. When the actresses would show up to audition, they'd bring their boyfriends just in case it was a snuff film.
Oh, wow. I do know that one of the girls, she would not meet them in a public. She had to like meet them. Was it? I forget where it was. She requested them to meet her somewhere ridiculous because she was afraid. Can't think of, because most of them went to, I mean, we're doing another regional horror film here. This is all basically Michigan State alumni. Because they just pretty much graduated, were they already graduated? Because they were making this in, because they came up with the idea in 1977. I remember.
Yeah, they started filming in 1979.
Yeah, so 1979. So they came up with the idea in 1977 with, obviously, I think they were doing research, and obviously, it was just horror films were easier to sell at that time, easier to get distribution. I think it was Robert Tapert that actually came up, was looking into that, and they decided that because they were originally their first film, if I remember correctly, was Sam Raimi wrote a kind of an action film called Relentless, and it was about a ball wrecker and a bulldozer going at it. And it was just way too expensive for them to do anything like that. So this was the next step. And I think him and was it Bruce Campbell, they were in history class together, and they were studying the actual real Book of the Dead. And that's where they came up with the idea. They just make a movie around that. It's pretty cool. And there you go. That was the start of all of this, which is the reason why they're still around. It's really interesting to watch, kind of like, again, these regional horror films, all these guys working together, and a lot of them just did this, kind of like we did Night of the Living Dead already. It's just they just did this and they moved on, just working together to make things happen. But it's also really cool that a lot of these people, they were obviously friends growing up. And they all knew each other from school, or, like I said, Campbell and Raimi knew each other growing up.
I was thinking about this character today because Ash became such a cultural icon, pop cultural icon, that I think people forget about Scott. He's kind of the bland, regular protagonist.
Which is named after Scott Spiegel. That was kind of their little homage to Scott Spiegel, because that was another one of their friends who went on to, direct.
Dusk Till Dawn? That's Scott Spiegel?
Yeah. I mean, he's worked in horror. He did director of Intruder was his big, probably impact on the horror genre, which Bruce Campbell plays a cameo in at the end there.
And it has both the Raimi brothers.
What's Scott Spiegel?
Oh, yeah, it's true, yeah.
Because, it's 10 years, or gosh, 15 years before Dawn of the Dead, or From Dusk Till Dawn, excuse me.
Yeah, this is what we had to do before smartphones and the internet. Draw grammar books.
Draw me like you draw the TikTok.
So it's funny that we picked this next because the similarities with Night of the Living Dead is really funny as well, because they really did have this cabin that didn't have any running water, plumbing, and they lived in it, and it was incredibly cold, and they were all miserable while filming. Kind of the same scenario, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I mean, what you do for film. I like how she draws SpongeBob here.
Yeah, that's a very emotionally distressed SpongeBob.
She predicted SpongeBob.
I remember when Steph got hired for Screamcast, I put this GIF up of the woman writing here in the Book of the Dead.
So this is what's her name? Sandra
Luck.
No.
Clint Eastwood's girlfriend, Sandra Luck.
No, I'm so bad with names when it comes to this stuff.
Gauntlet.
She plays Ash's sister. Who is that? Well, anyways, so she was the one that worked with them even prior. So when they did, quote unquote, the prequel to Evil Dead, which was Within the Woods, which was their short film that they did to basically try to raise the money for this, which I think they raised like $90,000 in order to even start. Because it took them so many, 2 years to eventually do the editing and completion of that time, and blowing everything up to 35.
Yeah.
And also what really helped was Irvin Shapiro, who, helped them get this basically, with distribution. They went with Dimension, I think, originally, which they did kind of like the Detroit, Ohio, Illinois area. So they were doing those theaters around there. They would just take it to kind of those local drive-ins and local places. And then Irvin Shapiro actually talked them into, doing basically getting international distribution. And that's what saved them, because eventually they went with New Line as for the wide release. And I know that they had really, really bad experience with New Line Cinema. They didn't make any money. They didn't get any money from them, even though the movie was incredibly successful.
Well, they should have put Lynn Shay in there, and then it would have been fine, right?
That's true.
Yeah, which is really shitty with Bob Shay, doing that, because I mean, I don't know if he was the president of New Line at the time, but he definitely was part of it. They were thankful with Irvin Shapiro, who basically got them all these international deals, and that's where they made all their money.
Right, and that's what I think solidified the film's reputation as well. Not even to mention it being labeled a video nasty, which I think ended up just made it more desirable, as those things usually do.
Was this one of the first video nasty? This is the first video nasty, right?
I don't know about the number, but this was a big one.
Yeah, I think I thought this is the one that kind of kickstarted everything, and then they just started slapping everything with video nasty, even stuff that was made in the 70s before that, if I remember correctly, but I could be wrong. Please message me if I'm incorrect.
He loves it. All caps.
So it's also Bruce. Steph, you've read and watched a bunch of this stuff. Didn't Bruce Campbell put up his family's property in order to get the film even more financed at the end? I
haven't run into that recently. All I know is that it was an ordeal raising the money over the years, and I think it actually helped create the bond with all the Renaissance Pictures people, that they kind of went through that. And I don't know. Like I guess when you're really trying to sell a creative vision, but you have to get into like the nitty gritty business aspects that no one wants to deal with, that kind of create a blood brother situation.
Yeah, because I think they initially did it with friends and family and stuff like that, and they raised 90 grand, and then at the end, it cost them over like $300,000 in order
This
to
is
do
a
everything.
great horror basement. My grandma had a basement like this, except she refurbished it, and she had a carpet wall art of John F. Kennedy. But otherwise, it's the same basement.
My grandma had a basement like this too, and it was very wet, just like this.
Yeah, that's Caro syrup instead of water, so it's like drippier and thicker and a little slower.
Yeah, Caro syrup should have definitely invested, because they use that
like an official sponsor.
Yeah, they use that for all the blood too. I remember Bruce Campbell telling a story. I don't know if it was on a commentary or what, but his shirt was so soaked at the end of shoots, and I guess he hung it up by the fire to dry off. And when he put it back on, it like broke.
Yeah, the arm broke off.
Yeah, it hardened so much with the Caro syrup, which is pretty fucking funny.
Yeah, you can't fucking let Caro syrup like hang out to dry.
He basically made a pancake out of his shirt.
Yeah, the shirt would break in half for sure. For shirt.
No, but like you said, they kept getting things stolen, so they'd rotate who would stay at the cabin or near the cabin, and they were remodeling it while they were there. They used the crew members and kind of like, okay, today you're going to work on cleaning up the cabin. Oh, The Hills Have Eyes. That's the shout out he started with Wes Craven.
Yeah.
Because they had the Jaws poster. And so Sam Raimi was like, no, we're the new in horror. And then to answer that, Craven put The Evil Dead in A Nightmare on Elm Street, where he had Nancy falling asleep while she watched it. And then I think in Evil Dead 2, they have Freddy's glove in the cellar and in the work shed. And then in Scream, when Stu has all the videotapes, he's like, okay, which one are we watching? And the Evil Dead is in there, and they're like, Halloween. So it's like a back and forth nod to each other. I always thought that was cool.
It's fun and sweet.
Yeah.
So you were talking about, I remember them also saying that there was their power tools and stuff were all stolen because of like the rednecks coming by, but they left all the camera equipment. So they had all their power tools and all their stuff for remodeling was stolen. But
well, they know the value of that. They don't know the camera value. So,
which they're lucky, because that would have halted production.
Ooh, yeah,
sure. Yeah.
But apparently, the community there in Tennessee did keep them in moonshine.
Yeah, Morristown?
It was Morristown, which is near Knoxville. And then what they didn't shoot there, they shot in Marshall, Michigan, because they're all Michigan boys.
Yeah, and then some of the pickup shots that were done in I think like Robert Taper basement, his mom's basement, I think it was, and a couple other people that they basically just used whatever they could. I mean, they had to. Because they had, it was like 6 weeks of filming. They did all of this, and then they had another, like, was it 4 weeks of like pickup shots and different things they had to do, which the only person that really came back to set was Bruce Campbell, obviously, because he's one of the only ones that was, not a shemp. So Ivan and Ivan Raimi, and then Ted Raimi, they're actually the shemps throughout the film at times, because they had to do the pickup shots. So they dressed them up.
Hey, what's family for?
Yeah.
So now we're coming up to the infamous reading. As we all know, Latin in horror films is bad news.
Which they had.
Are we just blowing past the point that Steph has an attraction towards Ted Raimi?
Oh, yeah. No, him and Sam, I think they're just the cutest. And they're so funny, which, yeah.
They are. Well,
there's no story.
So funny.
Horrible.
Well, this is one of the shots they had to refilm because this is the story where they all got really fucking high during that scene, and they were acting silly and goofing around. They had to go back and refilm it because
like it was uncontrollable. Yeah.
Which I want to see that. Which again, that was another thing, and I don't know if it's ever been seen, but the original cut of this movie is 2 hours long, and they had to cut it down to an hour and 24 minutes.
Just under 90, we'll say.
Yeah, under 90.
The tree foreshadowing.
Mm.
But I have to, not to wax Sam Raimi's Taxi too much, but you think about the editing and the shots going on, you compare it to a lot of other first-time, low-budget, full-length horror pictures, and you can tell he was destined to become a capital D director.
Yeah. There's just so many like really amazing ideas behind the making, especially its out of focus shot with
yeah, like this is just beautiful.
Which you say editing, that's another fun story with Joel Cohen is actually one of the assistant editors, the Coen brothers. Editors for this
yep.
I was thinking, so I was watching this the other day and I was thinking about, or maybe it was Evil Dead 2, but I was thinking about the hand that, runs through the cabin. And I thought about Barry Sonnenfeld and his direction in the Addams Family. And then I was like, oh, there's a relationship between Barry Sonnenfeld and the Coen brothers, of course, because of Blood Simple. And then I was like, oh, there's a relationship because of the Coen brothers and Sam Raimi. And I was like, oh, wouldn't this be like a perfect, shot by shot with like the Coen brothers version of the hand and like the Sam Raimi version of the hand? And then I was like, you know what? No one gives a shit about any of this. And you know what?
Well, no, they do, because that's when they were doing the rap party. That's where Sam met Barry Sonnenfeld. He was working as like a DP on some I don't know, some commercial stuff, and he was good friends with Coen brothers, and that's how they all got hooked up. But before we get too far, it was that scene where she is looking at the gift and then looking at Bruce, and they're closing each other's eyes. When I was rewatching this the other night, I realized that they kind of do that same thing when she turns into a Shemp, and he's burying her. She keeps looking back, and then she closes her eyes. I thought that was a little fun, like kind of callback, whether that's intentional or not. It was
okay. But Brad, you're being a little too inside baseball by calling her a Shemp in that context. You have to call her a Deadite.
They're not Deadites yet.
I know, but revisionist history.
But let's talk about Shemp. Let's talk about Shemp. Let's talk about where the term Shemp comes from.
Bruce Campbell played Reagan on the Fargo television show, which is a tenuous link, but I wanted to wrap up that Coen Brothers thing.
I'm a Marx Brothers boy by heart, like 100%. So like I love Sam Raimi, but like I sometimes have a hard time with the Three Stooges references.
See, I've never been a Three Stooges fan, but I like them through the Raimi Evil Dead filler. Oh, the one boob shot that they felt pressured to put in, which you can kind of tell that's one of the few very shy shots of the film. Like, sorry, ma'am, moving the camera along.
Oh, SpongeBob again.
She doesn't feel the need to explain her art to you. I do love the idea they had the POV of the Evil Dead and the way they use that. It's so active. It pulls you right in.
Yeah, I like how it can be right in front of them and then not see it. I think it's very, very clever.
Poor Cheryl.
Yeah.
Join us.
So this is the scene where Raimi regrets, right? He doesn't really, because originally it wasn't scripted that she is raped by trees and vines. That was something that they just kept going and going and going, and eventually it just happened. And then he regrets putting it in there.
Yeah, something to keep in mind when you watch films that are a little bit older is, like at the time they were all incredibly young. They're kind of making a movie they knew they could sell to the drive-in market back when that was a sure thing to get your money back. And it's a very effective, uncomfortable scene. It never felt malicious to me.
Yeah, it doesn't feel. It's not gratuitous. It literally honestly, when I watched this when I was younger, I didn't even understand. Really what was going on. It wasn't until later I was like, oh, it's raped by the trees, but it's not violent. Yeah, it's
because he does it 2 times. He does it in this one and the next one.
No, she's just pulled by the branches in the second one.
What? How the fuck is this different than the second? Come on.
This one, there's actually a piece of a tree branch that goes directly into her vagina. It stabs it. In the second one, she's just dragged violently through the woods. This one, she's like, there is definitely penetration. I do love these scenes with the Evil Dead pushing down the branches. There's some really great.
Brad, tell me when you see the scene where it's penetrated in the vagina.
It's like a stab. It's like the very last shot.
God.
And you see it.
Yeah, and this is when I very first remember learning about the reverse effect.
Yes. This is a class.
This blew my mind when I was a kid. I was like, "What? How the fuck are they doing that?" And then I remember watching The Thing. Like, I probably watched them almost close to one another, and then I saw The Thing, and I was like, "How the fuck do they do that?" And that's when I learned about the reverse effect.
Well, Raimi was very into the idea of a filmmaker being like a magician, and I think you can really see that here.
Yeah, this is incredibly well done.
I really hope she got paid more than the other actors. Not only for this infamous shot, but just her running through and falling through the bramble and everything.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a very infamous shot. This is the scene you'd like go to school on Monday and be like, dudes. I'm assuming what guys sound like, dudes. You won't fucking believe it. Right?
I don't know if I said that, but this definitely. I mean, we could talk about since we did kind of the Evil Dead. All right, Mike, here we go. It's coming up. There we go. There's the stab.
Yeah, that's. Ugh.
Yeah.
Kind of felt that in my soul.
I was at a bachelor party once, and one of the dudes at the bachelor party assured me that the tree rape came in Evil Dead 1, and I was like, no, dude, it comes in Evil Dead 2. And we argued so much at this party about whether the tree rape was Evil Dead 1 or Evil Dead 2. We drove back to his house and he put on Evil Dead, and we're like, oh no, here it is. And then I put on Evil Dead 2 and we found the same, similar scene. But why the fuck do you do the same thing 2 times, guys?
Because the
trees are alive.
Like we just said, that was the water cooler.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They use quite a few of the same gags in the second one, but I think that's just part of the demonic presence. It's why wouldn't the?
Though I always thought was interesting the way they're pulling her feet apart with those slippers on. It's almost cartoonish. The way they film that, because it's almost a silly thing, and then it turns so brutal. I think as effective as this film is, they were still refining the balance between humor and horror here. It's so effective, it's so well done, but you do get a few moments like that will jolt you a bit.
And I do love, like, there's this shot where she's crawling, and obviously that light and the smoke is coming over, but there's so many shots that are obvious that lights are just placed out in the woods and you can see them. But it does still give this really eerie look, and it works. Like, it doesn't even feel like a movie mistake. It really doesn't. Like, I look at it as, like, I don't know. It just works.
Let me call back to finding the keys. Oh, they're so mean to her character. Just the harshest SpongeBob fan art critics should ever meet. So yeah, a lot of these actresses, they used stage names because they weren't sure about how the film would turn out. And it was difficult to film, but now they've definitely embraced it. They're kind of staples in the horror convention circuit.
Yeah.
I would say probably the Evil Dead series, thanks to Bruce Campbell, is one of the most represented horror movies you'll see in both merchandising and in conventions. And when you see how this first film looks, and you learned about the conditions it was made under, that's crazy. And then eventually became a glossy TV show. It's really incredible.
Yeah.
Mike,
we have a guest appearance with Sam Raimi's car. Hello.
Is the Delta in there?
Yes. You're so lucky.
Yeah, he's I love the camaraderie and just the friendship between Campbell and Sam Raimi.
Mm-hmm. At first, I thought you were going to say that you love Bruce Campbell's eyebrows in this, and I was going to agree with you.
No, not at all.
No, that's rare and wonderful. You can meet someone so young who shares your interests, and it that works out for decades. And to me, it's never felt like they were saddled with each other. I think they both fit each other's energy incredibly well. And it's personally fun for me. I'm a big Bruce Campbell fan, to look out for his cameos and Sam Raimi's bigger pictures.
There's the car. And this is the car that's been in every single Sam Raimi film.
In one form or the other. I guess he has 4 versions of it now, but this original one they actually brought back for the Ash versus the Evil Dead TV show. Like, Bruce made sure it was the original, and that's impressive. I do not have cars last that long on me, so kudos to him.
Yeah, definitely a lot of work goes into keeping that. That's a bright light. But yeah, there's that scene where there is that shot, like right before that, where they're standing outside of the door and the light is just right behind them. It's just like I said, it's just so many like just scenes. And honestly, it's even compared like with John Carpenter with Halloween. Just the lighting was quote unquote poorly done, but it works incredibly well for the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like even stuff like this. Like it's out of focus. The light is way too bright on the actors, but it works so well. It's just, it's now. I don't know if it's like we're like subconsciously were more forgiving in situations. But this scene where he's walking sideways,
The sideways walk.
oh my God.
Just it's so effective.
Yeah, it's like they start walking, and she does it too, right? Coming up, like
Yeah.
she just gets out, and I'm like, I mean, that's obviously just something that Raimi was thinking about doing at the time. It just works again so well. Not that it's goofy or anything. It's just it's very eerie. It's like a Dutch tilt, but not Dutch tilting.
It's like the world is Dutch tilting itself into hell.
So first experiences.
Oh no,
that's very traumatizing.
Drama, no.
Yeah, that's a great callback, though. It's a really, really good callback. But
Well, and also shows her strength because she didn't do like a yeep or anything. It's just almost like no.
Oh fuck yeah.
Okay, this I guess you can tell because the actress is there. This wasn't a model. They got welders out there and actually created that.
Because it's a model in 2, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. With like claymation. So this is that's something. Or maybe they just had the rednecks do that.
I
Like,
think they hired.
Since you stole our power tools, can you do us a favor?
I think, don't quote me, but I think the rednecks actually stole one of the gnarled fingers or someone broke it off or something.
You know, I also I remember, I think it was Sam Raimi who said that one night he woke up and there was just some random guy in the house drinking moonshine.
Yeah.
And he was scared to death. Like the cabin had this like really weird story, I guess, of like kind of being haunted in general with like a mother and like 2 daughters. So they had that going on, but also there's just people lingering around the house, and also there was hunters. So they had to halt production when the hunters were in the area, so no one would get fucking shot. But yeah, apparently this is yeah, I don't think they ever disclosed where the cabin was, like in real life, because but there's also all these like another thing that I love about Raimi and Bruce Campbell and you know, a lot of people in this production is that they make up stories between themselves to see how far they will go. Because there's like a story of Sam Raimi like burning down the cabin after production.
Yeah.
But no one knows if that's true or not, but they won't disclose. They just say that the only thing that's remaining is like the fireplace or something like that. But they won't disclose.
Remaining is the fireplace, and that they put the time capsule, right? Like like they made a time capsule from the film and they buried it in the. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, no, I think the time capsule thing came. They like got everything together and they burned it in the fireplace. Like that was their send off or something like that. But that's what I'm saying. It's like there's so many little stories that people say are true, but they're really not. But they could be. But it's like they're this running gag in production of all these different stories that are made up. Like, you know, one of honestly, I mean, this is true. Everybody got hurt during production somehow or another. Like everybody was injured at some point. But I guess Bruce Campbell the most. But there's a story of like having all his his teeth knocked out at one point during the film from a cameraman, and then obviously the other one that's probably more notable is towards the end with Sam Raimi rode a bicycle through the house to that final scene that he rushes towards Bruce Campbell's character, and then ran him over with the camera and gave him a concussion. But I don't even know if that's true or not. But it's just fun to talk about those stories. But that also makes me even like the production history a little bit more, just because they were just so obviously having a good time, but they were also miserable because it was so fucking cold. But you know, it's she's such a trooper in this movie. Like she really does go through this shit, man.
In and out of makeup.
Yeah, and having the makeup, and here's the other, I guess, pickup
Can you
shots.
tell they switched her out?
Yeah, pickup shots. But honestly, that's another thing that works in the film because of the deformities and the changing of these deadites work so well at the same time because they do change their look. It could be anything.
Right.
But I honestly, it's part of us. I guess we're being more forgiving than normal. Maybe Ellen Sandweiss, that's her name, that plays Cheryl. That's her name.
So yeah, it's effects by Tom Sullivan. How do we feel about these effects?
I mean, I think everything works on multiple levels as stuff being, goofy, stuff that looks, good. The movie's nasty, it's bloody, it's gooey. I think everything works. The only thing I think that doesn't work, but it's also very impressive, is the claymation stuff that they do. But it still works for the movie, and like stuff like this is just great.
Yeah, again, it's that deadite POV shots.
Yeah, there's one later in the movie where the camera is like scooted across the floor, where they're pulling, I think, his girlfriend out, and they just scoot her across the floor, and then you see Cheryl like still looking up. It's not even really focused on that much. It's just she's there.
Right.
Is like the idea that these things are always watching.
And this is great because this is normally a standard filler scene in a slasher movie. Like, what are we going to do? And just by doing it from this basement point of view with that gnarled hand right there, it completely invests you. And normally I feel like this would be when you get up, go to the bathroom, or grab a beer. But instead, just because of that point of view, you're paying attention. That's one of the many reasons why rewatching this movie, it always feels very fresh to me.
Yeah, it keeps up the momentum, and even like a shot like this with them at the fireplace, there's that open window that is just nothing. It's not really like she's walking to it now, but the idea that window is so much in frame that there's nothing there just gives that opportunity of the voyeurism of these things that are always watching, and then it switches to getting closer and it's right there watching them. Just there's a lot of effective moments doing that no one was really doing at the time.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's just me, but these shots from the outside, it almost looks like it's a dollhouse, that they're just looking into a dollhouse. There's something about the perspective that really throws me off.
Yeah, complete voyeurism, and it's just and it works so well. And it's like I said, it's not really done before, but no one really continued it as well. Like no one, like there are those scenes in movies where killers are watching from the POV, but it doesn't do it as effectively as something like an Evil Dead, and continuously as well. Like it's just always going. And that's the thing. Another thing I like about the film is that quickly within 20 minutes of the movie, we're already thrown in with this stuff, and it's so well written, and the characters are the chemistry between them is so great that we don't need exposition with anybody. We just automatically feel like we're part of this group. And even just a shot like this swinging by Scott back and forth, he's just going to get grabbed out of the window, but he doesn't. It just keeps everything on edge for these movies, or this movie, I should say.
Yeah, the way the fog is rolling in, you could almost imagine the movie taking a more cosmic horror or even ghostly turn.
Yeah.
There's almost a really nice absurdism into how classic and kind of overwrought just that little simple scene is. Yeah, there's a lot of really interesting choices. I think it's a nice mix between a young filmmaker kind of throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks, and someone who's naturally talented and was making Super 8 films from a young age, and just innately had that talent and would go on to have a very successful career.
It matured so well. Even though, I mean, discount the Spider-Man movies, like, doing a like Crime Wave next, and then of course going on
Yeah.
to the rest
Is this
of
where we pop in? We talk about For Love of the Game.
well, yeah, that's one of them, and the gift, and even
Simple Plan.
something like, yeah, Simple Plan is
Well,
wonderful.
Simple Plan, yeah, that's genius. Yeah.
But it's just maturity of a filmmaker that comes from. I mean, but we also have a lot of people like this, with even like someone like Peter Jackson that makes
Oh yeah.
a bloodbath that goes on to do, even like Lord of the Rings, and it just shows you the wide range of talent from these guys. Like, there's just so much more to them than this or something so big. Spielberg is an example too.
I think there's something, they're easy to imitate because they, like right there, such an iconic shot. And you can do a cheap copy of that, but all the endless copycats of these movies, they don't have the innovation. They're not really thinking about, they're just copying the biggest, more obvious beats. And when you do have a young filmmaker, yeah, like Raimi and Jackson, they did not shoot films like the ripoff guys. And it's a basic thing to say, but it really is just these touches, these flourishes, that extra bit of thought makes all the difference. Like, I guess Raimi really drove people crazy because he was big on getting every single angle. And then when it would come to like the acting shots, they wouldn't have a whole lot of time. But he's kind of learning how important that was going to be for him here.
In these, the story of these contacts that they wear is fucking horrifying.
Well, the first thing people should know is they're glass.
Yeah, so like even like when my mom was growing up and they introduced contacts at first, like you could feel them in your eyes, and they were so heavy. But these were color contacts and not meant to be used like contacts and be worn for long periods of time. Your eyes would dry out. But they had to wear them, and it was mainly the women that had to get fitted for them first and had to wear them, especially Sandra, who plays Cheryl. I remember hearing that she would just keep them in and just kind of get angry, like, let's continue to fucking film because I don't want to put these back in. Let's just, because they were only supposed to be worn like 10 or 15-minute periods.
Yeah, 15 minutes because your eyes can't breathe, basically.
Yeah, and she would just want to keep filming certain scenes because she could not stand to like keep putting them in and having them in. And that's why, Cheryl's such a fucking trooper in this movie, because she really does like just churn it out. I mean, everybody, but definitely have to give more love to the woman that is attacked by a tree. Yeah.
And there's no running water.
Yeah, they didn't have any plumbing or anything like that, which is terrible. That's the thing, is like, you hear that, but literally, do not, like, I mean, I guess everybody has it. Have those moments where you don't have running water or your power goes out. Even for 30 minutes, it's the worst fucking 30 minutes of your life. Like, we don't think about
You're
that. But when it does
aware
happen,
of it.
right. And it's just like they were living in these conditions for fucking like, I mean, I know that they would travel back and forth, but a lot of them started spending the night, obviously, because they were having stuff stolen and things like that.
Ooh.
So they had another place that was 30 minutes away, that they would, so basically the women would go and have the makeup applied at like their other like hotel or house that they were staying at, and then travel to the fucking woods, walk up a big hiking trail basically, because there was no roads to this place really, from like the highway. It was all dirt roads. So they didn't they had a car like drop them off like halfway or something like that, if I remember correctly, and then they had to walk with all this fucking makeup on, sit around all day, while they're trying to get these shots. You can't fucking pay people to do that, like these days. Like even pay them, like you can't. Like obviously these people were getting paid a lot of money, probably nothing at all. But you know, because they all probably put money into it too, and then they didn't really do anything afterwards.
That's a great moment for Ash against the wall before he became Hail to the King baby.
Yeah, the evolution of Ash is something that I do enjoy, through the films. He is kind of, he's a ladies' man. He's comforting to people. He's he's everybody's best friend, and he really doesn't know what to make of everything when it first starts to happen. But
which is relatable.
Yeah, which is great. I mean, we can all relate to Ash in this situation. And, another thing that I like about this is even the relationship between Scott and Ash is that there's no like, fuck you, man, this is what we're doing. Like, there's no like trying to take control. There's literally this instinct of survival that they have to do. And Scott turns like right around here. It says like, didn't he say like it's your girlfriend or something?
Yeah, your girlfriend's your problem.
Yeah. And it's like, this is the extent of the assholeness that the movie goes. It doesn't have like, Night of the Living Dead where it's like, fuck you. But again, both films have these weird similarities. So what's your first, since we did it with night, here's the thing with the lights. Boom.
Yeah, maybe not the most elegant out of the film.
But first experiences with Evil Dead, since we did it with Night of the Living Dead. Because I have a fun one.
Oh, okay. Mine is not fun. Well, it's nice, but it's not particularly interesting. Like I said, I started sneaking horror movies, and then when my parents saw I didn't become a serial killer or anything, and they're like, fine, watch them. For my 13th birthday, my mom got me the videotapes of the first 4 Friday the 13th and Evil Dead 1 and 2. I was incredibly excited because I
bought them?
Reading about. My mom did.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
For my birthday. And yeah, it was a very happy birthday. And I remember I put in The Evil Dead. I was so excited because it was so famous and notorious. And it was grueling to me because, again, I was brand new to horror movies. And
that's
what I had...
Yeah,
I had seen like Pinocchio's Revenge, like that level of horror movie. I couldn't finish it. I stopped midway through this. And
I would stop right here.
Yeah, and I had to come back to it. And I finished.
This is fucking terrifying.
And I finished it. Finally, I was like, wow, that was really terrifying. And when I got to the Evil Dead 2, I was so scared about putting it into the VCR. And thankfully it had so much humor put in that I was like, oh, 1, this is great. And 2, I didn't know you could be funny in horror movies. This changes everything for me. So yeah, the first time I saw The Evil Dead, it was so intense I had to stop it midway through.
That's a lovely story, actually. I like that.
Thank
But it's funny because even though I was introduced to horror at a very, 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 very young age, I didn't see Evil Dead until I was 13 or 14. That was my first time. And the very first memory I have of Evil Dead is that the video store that we would go in didn't have the first Evil Dead. They just had Evil Dead 2. So I would constantly see that skull.
Mm.
And I just didn't know what it was, but it kind of creeped me out because it was watching me, right? So years went by, and eventually there was a video store. Blockbuster didn't even have it. There was a video store, Video Hut, that was down the street, kind of more mom and pop place. A chain around here, but I think more of a chain mom and pop place. Not sure how far Video Hut went. So my parents, they would do big gambling weekends. So they would like go to Biloxi, Mississippi, and our community was pretty close. So they would leave me alone when I was around 13 or 14 for a couple days. They would give me a bunch of food, money for pizza, and my mom would take me to the video store, and I would rent like 15 movies.
Wow.
And I would just watch them while they were gone. I mean, that was perfect for me. Was going to do that anyway. So I remember renting The Evil Dead. I was like, oh shit, here's that movie. And I rented the first one, and I watched it later at night, and I was scared for one of the very first times in my life. I was scared while watching a movie. Some things affected me, Child's Play and Nightmare on Elm Street, and Scream actually did a little bit as well later on. Mainly the home invasion aspect. But this really creeped me out. And I was very tired when I was watching it. And I dozed off. And it's one of the scenes, I don't think it's happened yet, but it's when Cheryl pops up and she's still chained in that cellar. I woke up to her screaming and, yelling, and I was so startled by that. I turned off the movie, and I didn't finish it. I was like, I have to watch this in the morning. And I did. I turned it off and I watched it, finished it. I actually rewound it because I don't know how long I fell asleep for. It's not that I was bored. I was just really, really tired. And I was honestly I wanted to fall asleep because I was scared. So I turned it off and I went to bed immediately because I didn't want to think about it. And I woke up and I was like, man, I'm fucking I think it was 13 or 14. Saying I'm 13 or 14, I'm scared of this fucking movie. What the hell's wrong with me? But I finished it the next day, and I still enjoy the film a great deal, and I do find some of these sequences still very, very effective and terrifying. It just works kind of all around. What about you, Mike?
Did you have to stop it midway through?
Me?
Yes, you're the other one in the room.
No, I didn't stop it midway through when I first watched it. Gosh, I think the first time I watched it was probably late 90s. I was in drama club. I remember Marcy Skolnick was in charge of drama club at the time. God, I don't know. I don't remember. No, I don't remember the first time I watched it. I kind of have an idea, but no.
So nothing memorable or sweet like stuff for myself. Yeah, I mean honestly, I think it's very it's very interesting kind of how movies do affect other people, because I remember people telling me certain stories about certain films that really terrified them, and it's just oh man, I thought that was like cake when I was like 8. Like it didn't really affect me at all. And then something like The Exorcist for me, the bouncing in the bed, that fucking did me in. That was one of the most horrifying moments in the history of movies for me. That scarred me for a long time. But this just kind of scared me. It is kind of, I always took that, I attribute to The Evil Dead as a movie that scared me in my teens, which is very, very
Which
rare.
is impressive.
Yeah, which is, something that doesn't happen very often, especially around that time, because I was so desensitized with horror, that this really did kind of frighten me to the point where I turned it off. I probably even slept with the light on at that night. I don't remember. But yeah, really kind of did me in.
I just want to point out Bruce Campbell is very cute in this movie, but he is incredibly attractive in those particular shots.
Getting stabbed by Cheryl. Or not Cheryl. What's her name?
No.
God damn it. I always forget the names. And she is licking that blood good.
Yeah, so she has that classic kind of demented dolly thing going on with hers. Does that usually affect either of you in a film? Like more like the la, 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 la?
Not so. I mean, yeah, it just depends. Like, it really has to be like the one thing that really kind of like does me in with that stuff is like a childlike thing. So if they act like a kid, that can bother me. With kids, like horror films that involve kids acting like little kids, or like even like chanting and not acting like little kids, but they like the singing, dancing shit that really kind of does me in. So a little bit, just I guess more in the sense of, here's a scene I was talking about. But the dolly stuff for sure does me in. What about you, Mike?
Nothing scares me, Brad.
Oh, nothing at all?
No, no, I'm super freaked out by like a lot of things, but not in movies. I don't know. I don't have a memory of this movie scaring me. I have a memory of this movie. So the big thing I guess I would like to say here is that this movie has not frightened me in any way. Like it's only inspired me. And like when Sarah and I talk about these bloodbaths, like when we do Shakespeare, like Titus Andronicus, and we want to do like a big bloodbath, we're only looking at movies like Evil Dead.
That's cool. And Raimi did a short Shakespeare film before this. I think he has the same thought process as you.
Ah, interesting. But I don't think we have. I'm not super freaked out by this movie, but I am continually inspired by it, like all the time.
Yeah, no, I want to say like this is a film that with kind of the DVD era with commentary, them talking. I remember watching when I very first DVDs were a thing and this came out, with them talking about how it was made and investigating the stuff for myself. Learning how they did things, it really did inspire me to become a filmmaker. Just as much as The Shining was a big thing for me to want to become a filmmaker, but these films taught me how to achieve that on if I was going to do it by myself. I just wasn't lucky enough to have friends like Sam and, George Romero, to have people basically pour their heart and souls into a project, for not requesting to really get paid or anything like that. Just kind of just going at it, giving it their all. I think but that's, I guess, again, that's what makes me kind of enjoy these movies a little bit more than just, visually and just being a horror film. There's a lot more to it. There was that scene I was talking about, going back and forth, of her looking and get that nostrils shot there. So you get to bury your girlfriend.
It's always a rough day. But like Scott said, she's your girlfriend. Take care of her.
Yeah. Got to do what you got to do.
I do like that this is one of the more interesting plot aspects for them to flesh out more in Evil Dead 2.
Oh, kind of the beginning of it. And this is one of the shots they had to pick up later, because I guess it was unusable for some of the other footage. So if you could tell it's somebody else in a wig. It's probably Ted.
Yeah, but it is a great shot. It both has kind of a Fulci thing, just a classic Universal horror.
Yeah, that dirt placement is God's work.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Because
and
I
that
imagine
slice framing his face perfectly.
They did that, and it was just like it was meant to be. So another thing we didn't really touch on was, or yet, unless Steph was saving it, because Steph's the Evil Dead expert here, is that Stephen King was a huge proponent of getting this film even better distribution and getting the second one even off the ground.
Right.
He was a huge fan of the movie, and helped it even get a wider release by his, stamp of approval, and then getting the second one made. So just just right place, right time. And this is definitely something that Stephen King would love.
Oh yeah.
Especially during this time with, what he was doing at the time between that, what he was writing, the drugs, just really hit him probably perfectly.
Yeah, and that's funny. When they first started filming this, The Shining was like running trailers about to come out. So that's an interesting time. But yeah, just ask Clive Barker. A well-placed Stephen King quote at the beginning of your career can make a huge difference.
Yeah.
Stephen King did drugs?
Read Cujo and get back to us.
Yeah, or just watch Maximum Overdrive.
I love Maximum Overdrive.
No, I do too, but he claims he doesn't remember one day on set.
He also claims that he doesn't remember writing Cujo.
Yeah.
So basically a lot of drugs for a long time. Now, I will say, I was talking about kind of continuity, and that's an awful face. The continuity. The only thing that does bother me is the continuity of the blood in the film. Like Ash is covered from time to time, but he ends up walking away with no blood. I just wish that he was drenched and it was just red and black the entire time. Like we couldn't even really make out his face. But
so like the newer Evil Dead movie.
Yeah, very much like that. Which that's something that I really did like. Kind of the aspect of just being drenched in blood.
That I like that you mentioned that earlier, that this is a very regional film. It blew up, obviously, but I love that you can tell they actually went to a real cabin and they're actually filming in it. I think that's another thing that helps it out too.
Yeah, the idea
we're really in there with them.
Yeah, with the cabin's very very creepy. Like, even though it's a real cabin, it's just like the way that everything's placed, the way it looks. It's just, that was actually real ammunition. I do remember that. Real ammunition on a dummy.
Came back with a worse mask.
Yeah. But yeah, the size of the door frames, how small the rooms are, it's very claustrophobic and weird.
Are there usually basements in cabins?
Probably not, I would say.
There aren't any basements out here in the Southwest, so I'm for sure.
Yeah, I spent time in like cabins and shit like that, going back and forth with vacations. I don't ever remember basements. Mainly because it's a getaway. It's not like, like old timey cabins. They would have like kind of a cellar area.
Oh yeah, for your preserves and whatnot.
But it was mainly like something just like this, where it's just the steps, some shelving, that's it. Not really way underneath, because you'd have to have support beams and everything else. But
quick vote: better horror location in the house, attic or basement?
Basements, I think. Yeah. Because the attic, to me, like, there's only so many places you could go, because of, unless there's flooring up there, and like for giant houses and, very expensive houses. But for the most part, I mean, no one can really live up there. People can live in the basement. That's where the evil dwells.
Can't argue with that. Look at this evidence.
Look at all that blood. Well, this is where everything starts bleeding. This is another great scene.
Yeah, and it's a Three Stooges nod. Another one to a plumbing we will go.
Yeah.
Projectors in horror movies, always a good choice.
And there's the "we're gonna get you." That is now, see, like stuff like that, I think that's creepy for me. Like the
chanting.
The chanting, the child's like stuff. That's something that can really get under my skin. This is a shotgun that I guess Bruce Campbell bought for the film. It says it kind of interesting that they would do the live ammunition, but I guess when you're doing DIY stuff yourself, I mean, it's probably pretty common to have line, because to have, a fake gun to shoot blanks, probably more costly than actually the gun and real ammo.
Yeah.
It's another shot that just is kind of out of place, but works so well. I like the Band-Aids with all the blood. That's obviously probably intentional, but that's really fucking funny.
Yeah. So I think Bruce Campbell does an incredible job by his just kind of affable second banana in the beginning of the film to being pushed into heartbroken madness. I think he's underrated as an actor. He definitely has a type people like hiring him as, and he can be very hammy, but I think it's always appropriate. And when he does have to do more nuanced things, I think he's really good.
So I think did we just pick Evil Dead so you could propose to Bruce Campbell, is that like kind of the idea here that you're?
No, he has a beautiful wife who did a great job on the costumes in Army of Darkness. Sam Raimi is actually upside down on the ceiling for this. I love
Oh
that.
wow, that's
Yeah, he had like the camera taped to his hand just in case. That's dedication.
Yeah, just for a shot like that, something that small. It's a nice transition too. There's just a lot of things that are going on, like in this movie, like scene after scene. That's just very. It's inventive. It's creepy. It works on so many levels. But just there's just like all this
there
stuff
it
right
is.
here. Yeah,
I feel like that's when future Ash was born. That shot.
well, it's kind of like with Evil Dead 2, this is when everything starts laughing. When things are moving like this, and he starts to get more into that character. His last name is Williams, right? That's what they eventually said. Because there was something where it was Holt at one time was the last name, and then eventually they just want something more traditional, but they never say it in the movie, right? They never say it's Ashley Williams.
In the first one, no. On their first mirror gag, they'd continue experimenting with those in the series, which is always fun.
Yeah, that's another thing that always was very effective on me was mirror gags with what's on the other side. I don't know if it was like Prince of Darkness that really did that for me, but really, it's another thing that creeps me out is old-timey mirrors.
I feel like that window pane that he just shot through, when it's sectioned off in four segments like that, isn't it a separate little window for each segment normally? I don't know. I just feel like it was a breakaway window and they only had one of them. They had to leave it hanging kind of like that.
Yeah.
So what do we think about Super Purple Bruise? That was definitely a choice.
That stays. The blood doesn't, but the purple bruise is just probably some heavy makeup, like probably from one of the girls. Just stays there because it doesn't look like a bruise. But again, it's another thing that just kind of works.
I'll call back to that necklace, which apparently Bruce Campbell hates. He thinks it's really ugly. But Sam Raimi originally wanted to do kind of a gag with it being a magnifying mirror, but it didn't work out.
Bruce Campbell also says he hates the car.
Yeah, like a vendetta about how it stays around. Yeah, that's another thing. There are filmmakers like Kevin Smith where they create this behind the scenes mythos of all these relationships they have. And I think that's another thing that keeps these so popular is you learn about the personalities behind. You can they kind of feel like friends in a way.
Yeah.
So you learn all these little stories, and I think it just endears you to the films even more.
Yeah, and I think that's the wave of, filmmakers too. They watch these things and they learn so much because it shows on screen as well. Like, and, certain things you're like, man, how did you do that? Other things it's like, oh, that's, this is probably what they did. And it just inspires people so much to make films. So it's just a wave of inspiration for these up and coming people like in the 90s, early 2000s. And again, like when stuff, like Scream and Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah. I mean, any of these films, like George Romero, Carpenter, Raimi, they're all, Peter Jackson, they're all making these movies that are low budget to the point, but, obviously inspiring countless people.
That was a very Peter Jackson-like shot, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, any of like the old, I even kind of attributed that to the old callbacks to old samurai films. When they would chop people's arms off and
just the geyser.
Yeah. And of course, you know, Tarantino kind of brought it back in a bigger way with like Kill Bill, but it's an old gag from the 60s and 70s.
Yeah, this I think was one of the very. I actually remember this was a hard scene for me to get through the first time I saw it. It really did just feel like punishment. And now I'm just thinking about the effects, thinking about what it took to film it at the time. I was completely transported. And we have the character arc for that necklace, which I appreciate.
And here she is again, all dolled up.
Definitely the MVP of the ladies.
Yeah, then they came back all these years later, and they became like Ladies of the Evil Dead, doing cons and everything like that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, kind of because again, you know, just like Romero's, they didn't really go on to do that much. Most of them, you know, it was just kind of this and some cameos years and years later when that was, you know, kind of their thing. Doing these like small little conventions and then gaining fame. I think that's really cool too, is when you do something so small at the time. This is literally just a passion project for them, doing it with friends. You know, these actors, they're not actors, they're just doing this for fun, watching something blow up and only doing that and then moving to something else. And then this is the thing that you are, you know, known for the rest of your life, no matter what you do. So it's just a fun, and here's the stuff I was talking about.
Yeah,
like, what do you think?
It's very surprising.
Yeah, does it work? Does it work for you?
I mean, it's so different from the rest of the film. It does take you out. You know, they're using specific techniques that don't match the rest of the film.
Yeah.
But I do. It gives an otherworldly quality, and it's just so interesting. Even if it doesn't match perfectly, it's so fascinating and weird to watch that I love it.
And this is one of the shots they had to pick up way later. Hence why it's so close up on Ash right now. There's the cornmeal.
Oatmeal?
Yeah, it was cornmeal, oatmeal, and then cockroaches. Oh. Yeah, this is all these shots were picked up later.
This just makes me feel just dirty and grimy just looking at it.
Oh, and this, like, I also, this is something I really love because it shows you that there's something even bigger, like, that is out there.
Yeah.
So rewatching the movie gives you even a different kind of feel, because we know that it's something more than just these possessed people. It's literally this huge demonic force.
And cockroaches.
Yeah. So they filmed that in somebody else's basement. And I remember them saying that the wife was not happy with them doing it.
Well, they always say don't allow films to use your house for anything.
Yeah. And again, that could be a joke between Raimi and everybody saying that, but that seems a little bit more real, that there is a lot of pressure on the relationship of the husband and wife that own the house, because she was not happy with the roaches being brought in to her home. Maybe she got over it after the movie was successful.
You should look into that.
Yeah. Because I think that would change things a little bit, right?
Now that's some very clean, artful looking blood.
Yeah. That's the blood.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah, like I said, the continuity of the blood really does. I just kind of want to see it, like, you know, I want Ash to look like he went to a Guar concert after the movie.
Yeah, there it's more of a Slayer, Rain of Blood kind of thing. The morning after. Surely everything has to be okay now.
Which is funny because, like, does he feel like he's won, or is it just mourning? Because obviously he didn't do anything to really kill the demon, because obviously those big hands came from somewhere, and there's no evidence that he has won. But I guess he's still. It's good because he's still afraid. Like, it is mourning, so it's easier. Like,
he's trepidatious, but he mentioned earlier he really got it into his head that once the sun comes out, you're safe. So it's like, okay, the sun, they might be a bigger force than it looks like, but so is the sun, damn it. And I have it on my side right now.
That's why daytime horror really works for me.
Yeah.
Because right, yeah. So this is partially them using the 2x4, then cutting into Sam Raimi riding a bicycle, I believe. So the cut is probably somewhere with these doors, and then last shot of Ash.
Great closing shot. Woo!
And the jazz music really works too.
Yeah, it gives it kind of a upbeat feel until it peters out at the end.
It kind of reminds me of maybe kind of a callback to George Romero's Dawn of the Dead. Like, the original US cut for that has that dun 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 like kind of thing going on.
Mm-hmm.
And
I thought you were going to say Woody Allen, but you didn't.
Oh.
So yeah, how do you still feel the same about the movie after watching it again?
Yeah. No, it's this is always stuck with me. It's like with Evil Dead, I'm not a diehard fan. I've said it on the Screamcast, many times. I'm not
Joel Cohen.
Yeah, there it is. Not a huge fan. There's some John Cameron, Scott Spiegel, who all and Robert Taylor. They basically all work together to create Xena, the warrior.
Yeah, exactly. And then he married her.
Yeah, and then the Hercules show with Kevin Sorbo. But we didn't talk about that earlier. But anyways, these guys did so many funky projects together. Yeah, I mean, The Evil Dead for me works as a horror film, and it really hits me in that space of regional horror, DIY stuff. But it's also a movie that scared me. There's a lot of things going for it. It inspired me to become a filmmaker because I realized, like, this is just normal guys that had a little bit of schooling, but really they don't know what they're doing other than learning from making short film after short film after short film, doing their own thing. But even after all that experience, there's so many things that in this film that it feels like a first time quote unquote filmmaker. It's their first feature film, but it just it really is such an amateur production. But it hits me in all those spots. It was the thing that I guess has always, like, if this was a standalone film and Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness didn't exist, I would probably, I don't know, those movies kind of really overshadowed this one because it seems that everybody talks about Army of Darkness and Evil Dead 2. And I was always like,
they're quotable.
I was like, this movie did it more for me. And then I guess I was always at a time in my life, all through growing up, is that everybody wanted to talk about Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness. I'm like, I don't even like those movies. I like Evil Dead. And eventually I just kind of shut down over time. And I revisit Evil Dead every once in a while. It's been probably 10 or 15 years since I saw it more recently, which is like today. and like the day before, because I wanted to brush up on a couple things of memories. But I actually like it a little bit more now that I watched it again. But I revisit movies every 10 to 15 years, depending. It changes a little bit with my kid, my daughter, which she watched this for the
And
first
did she
time the
like
other
it?
night. No,
Aw.
she didn't. I don't know if it was she was just we watched it pretty late, so it might have been she was tired.
Good
But
illustration.
yeah, so maybe yeah, I know that's funny. So maybe in due time we'll give it another shot. I told her there were two more, and then she rolled her eyes and she said no.
Oh.
So she won't be. She didn't watch Evil Dead 2 with me. She probably won't watch Army of Darkness. But it's something that maybe she'll, over time, she'll want to revisit. Who knows?
Well, that was The Evil Dead.
Yeah, The Evil Dead, and so hopefully we'll be back next week with something else. Steph, why don't you just pick it now?
I can't. It's too much pressure.
Oh wow! I thought you already had this on deck. You were ready. But yeah, hope you enjoyed it, and we'll be back next week with another one, hopefully.
Thanks for listening.
See ya.
Oh, don't tell me you're leaving. The party's just begun.